Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel. And this is another Retro Sports Gaming Monthly. It is now November 2018. We're going to be talking about a bunch of things tonight. And I have Camp Huna Craig with me tonight. What's up, Craig?
How's it going, Tom? Good to see you.
Thanks for joining me. Usually we do these on Sunday evening, but this is a late Wednesday night for me. And for you, not so much.
Not too bad. It's only a little after 8:30.
Yeah, you're on the West Coast, so this works out well for you. So we'll see who joins us tonight in chat, if anyone's awake in the Midwest, or if they're sleeping, getting ready to go to work tomorrow. So what we wanted to talk about tonight, we're of course going to talk about Craig's Cascadia F and Tecmo League, their third season, and what he's got going on with that. We're going to recap some tournaments that have happened, both NHL 94 and Tecmo Super Bowl. And then the Equalizer 2 is coming up. I'm going to talk about that first. And I just launched a website. I want to go over that, some of the goals with it, what we're trying to accomplish, and then the Retro Sports League Championship, some details about that. So first and foremost, let's talk about the Equalizer 2. So the Equalizer 2 is the second time we're doing this tournament. It's at Michael Anthony's Pizza in Berwyn, Illinois, December 8th on a Saturday. It features 20 players. And what we do is we use a tier list. And I'll pull that tier list up here. We use a tier list for group play. And the players are seeded based off of their skill. But instead of each group having a really good 1 and 2 seed, each group is organized to have the best players in one group. And then in the bottom group, you have, your beginner players or just players that haven't played as much in tournaments. So you got a good mix of players in different groups that are at similar skill levels. And then we combine everyone for a team draft for the elimination rounds, and it's single elimination. So you earn basically your team. So we use this tier list for group play. Tier 1, last time it says San Francisco ban optional. Last time we had a rule that you could either use Jerry Rice or Joe Montana. You couldn't use both. This time, they're legal. So you can use the 49ers. If Tier 1's called, you should probably expect 49ers to be in the matchup. For the second tier, this is where we start. We cut off Tier 1 when we go to draft the teams after group play. And then it's Tier 2 down. So you can use you could draft any of those teams for the single elimination rounds. Do you think, Craig, that's a fair way to do it? Just cut out those top 4?
I do. When I was reading the rules earlier, the way I read it, and I only casually kind of saw some of the Equalizer last year. The way I read it was it sounded like San Francisco was the only team that couldn't be drafted, but I was pretty sure last year weren't there like the Raiders picked first or something?
Yes. So last year we cut off Tier 1 for the draft as well. So it was just okay. Tier 2 and the rest of the teams.
I think that's very fair. You've got 3, and you can almost say 3.5 teams that are could super CC or JU. They've got super powerful passing games, and then you throw in with Buffalo and Giants just the great the running games on top of that, and they all have at least somebody that is a game changer on defense. And they're definitely a tier above everybody else. So, I mean, it makes sense, especially if you want in the, I guess as your tournament progresses, you don't want to have something as severe as maybe San Fran versus Dallas, where like KC versus Dallas or even KC versus Denver, I could see that being, a workable matchup.
Yeah, for sure. And last year the final 4 teams that were left, first of all the guys in Group 1 weren't there anymore in the final 4. So the 4 best players were out of the tournament.
Who was that, by the way?
Regulator, Mort, Lewis, and Flo. Now Flo had to leave, and Shalabay took his place, and he actually ended up taking second. But he was not going to be in that top group. He was going to be in like Group 3 or something because he was more unknown to us. Mm-hmm. But he made a run with the Chargers. So not only were the top group not represented in the final 4, but the teams that were left, the Raiders, of course, Tecmo Bo, he had the best run. He went undefeated. He earned that team in Group 2 going undefeated, and I think he had the 2nd draft pick. But the 4 teams in the final 4 were the Raiders, the Chargers, the Buccaneers, and the Vikings.
Okay.
And Phil was in – last time we had 5 groups. This time we're going with 4, so there's an extra game. But Phil was in Group 4 last time, and he was in the final 4. So okay. the way it works out, like anyone has a shot in this format. Lewis ended up losing to Green Magic, which Joseph's a really good player now. In this tournament, he wasn't as good, but he had the Eagles over the Broncos. And he just played to his passing advantage in that matchup, and he was able to take them down. One of the big upsets was the Mort over Regulator, because he had Redskins over Chiefs last time around, and it was a miracle fluke play that he won on, but he still won the game. So you wouldn't expect with 2 elite players like that the Redskins to beat the Chiefs, but Rippon was on that game and he was able to get the win.
So when you finish your group play, they're tiered in their groups, right?
Yep.
When you decide the draft order, the first draft pick goes to the best record in Group 1?
No. So we eliminated the point differential, and there's actually a lottery. So, for instance, in this tournament, you get 4 games in group play. If there's 3 4-0s, they're entered in a lottery to see who gets the first, second, and third pick. And then we move on to the 3-1s and then do a lottery that way. So even if you're 4-0 in Group 1, if there's a 4-0 in Group 4, then they might get the first pick. We just don't know.
Yeah. So you're also kind of banking on nobody's going to run through Group 1 4-0, hopefully, right?
Yeah. That's part of it. It's like the talent is so deep in Group 1 and then, 2 that those guys most likely aren't going to go undefeated.
Okay.
And, the first tournament represented some of that none of that top group was in there. So I really try to sell it like if you're a player that loves to play Tecmo, you have skills, but when you go against some of these elite guys, like this is the tournament that gives you a shot to actually win one because of the way it's set up. And
are you familiar with every player that's participating in your tournament? Or do you have like a potential like blind spot for somebody that's like showing up for the first time and not sure how,
Well, we have 14 players registered right now, and there's no blind spots. I know all the players. I've played all of them at least once. So there's no blind spot. There may be 1 or 2 guys that come in unexpected. We'll see. There's still 6 spots open, but I don't foresee that being a problem.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is the tier list. And this is what we'll use for group play, and then we move on to the team draft. So the Equalizer, like I said, 6 spots left. It's $20 to enter. We guarantee the $300 first prize. And second is $100. Reason I do that is because I know some of these tournaments are based off how many people they can recruit, and they don't know what the prize is.
Yeah.
I rather just say, look, I'm willing to put this money up. It's 100% of the prize pool if we get 100% of the players, but if we don't, then I'm willing to lose a little bit of money just to make this tournament happen.
Kind of what you do when you make tournaments happen.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's the way we do it. There might be a third and fourth place prize to another tournament, but like buy into another tournament, but I'll have to see about that. But I like to have something for third and fourth place. So just got to figure that out before the tournament. And yeah, so you can register on the website, which I'm going to pull that up now. So it just launched the website. It's retrosportsgamer.net. Launched it probably like 3 weeks to a month ago. So here is the website. So there you see Joey Gatz, Tecmo Players Championship. He won that. So pretty much what you have here is just like a news reel. And then scrolling down, sign up to the tournament, or some of the event videos that we've done throughout the last few years, the tier list, a couple videos, the Retro Sports Gaming monthly interviews, which you will see this one up here after we complete this, and then some of our D-Men Tap Tecmo League videos. And then looking at the Retro Sports League. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Retro Sports League, this is what we run all year round. We could end up playing at my house, at an arcade somewhere. We try to stream as many as possible, but the majority of them are played at Monday nights at D-Men Tap in Chicago when we're playing. So we count all of the games played there and other places, and we keep track of all those games. So here's the records here. So as you can see, like Mark's played over 400 games, and I think so has DPS. So those two are the two Iron Men.
Yeah, those are the guys I see the most on your stream.
Yeah, they hold it down. They're there the most. They pretty much are there the whole time D-Men Tap is open. Phil is one of the owners there, so okay. Yeah, so you could see there's some guys who only played a few games, but they're in here. They will be eligible to play in the tournament, the Retro Sports League tournament, even if they don't have a good seed. The other thing we're doing is you could play us online, and we'll count it towards the league. We're bringing the Nintendo Switch to D-Men Tap to play some of the NES Online games. We could also play on PS4. There's some retro-inspired games to play, like Mutant Football League, also some of the other sports games, of course, the modern ones. But that's something we'll be doing more frequently as we head on to the next months. Here we see the D-Men Tap Tecmo League. This is what we do at D-Men Tap. This was actually Mort's idea to do a Tecmo League, and what sold it for me is he's like, I'll take the Colts in the league. I'm like, we know the Colts are the worst team in the game, and so everyone is given a team based off their skill level. So here you see Flo, he's has a tier 5 team with the Browns.
I love that you have Hates finishing in 3rd place. I know the backstory on that one.
Oh yeah, definitely. DPS has the Cowboys. So as you can see, there's a bunch of players in the league. I think we have like 18 to 20 players now, because we just got a few more that filled like the Bills. I think his name's Greg. Yeah. So he's not up here yet. But one of the guys playing in the league, Todd Daniels, he he helped out getting a standings thing set up here with Google Sheets. So this is updated immediately by Mort the night that we play, so you can follow the standings as you're watching us on the stream. And right now, it looks like Korn, which is Kyle Daniels, Todd's brother, is in first place in the league at 7-2. So that's the Demon Tap Tecmo League live tournaments. Of course, the Equalizer 2 is going to be at the bottom here. But the Retro Sports League Championship. So last year, we ran the first one. It was just in my basement with a lot of the people that played throughout the year in tournaments and different things. And it featured NBA Jam T on the Jaguar. You see there, NHL 94, RBI Baseball. And we actually played Blitz 2000 as one of the games. So this year, we're going to play NBA Jam TE on the Genesis, and I'll get back to that one. NHL 94 Stain, RBI Baseball Stain, and then we're going to play Tecmo Super Bowl. So those seem to be the obvious choices representing the four major sports. Now, the NBA Jam TE, we've spent like the last few months exploring the different games on Super Nintendo and the Jaguar, and we found that on Super Nintendo, there's like a first player bias on both games, both
Really?
original NBA Jam and NBA Jam TE on Super Nintendo. So we're going with the Genesis version. Now, the Genesis version has been played at a few tournaments this year. Friday nights at Tecmo Madison, it was played. Also, the Tecmo Jam Cleveland tournament. And even though it's doesn't represent basketball as well as some of the other ones because of the injury factor, it's still a balanced game. So basically what we found in the NBA Jam T on the Genesis is that the injuries don't reset after a quarter, and you could push guys till their injuries rack up and then they could barely move down the court. So
yeah, I feel victim to that.
yeah, and it's the only one that's like that, where they slow down that much. And it's the only one that we know so far where the injuries don't reset, so the players end up moving that slow. Which that's just part of the strategy. Mm-hmm. You know, the guys call it NBA shove, honestly.
I mean, so before the last Madison, I was over at DT's house getting them. He was meeting up with a couple guys, one that was going to Madison as well with him, BWAG, and we were helping them get ready. And that, you know, I guess they had lost in the finals the year before to who was it that they ended up beating? It was Ryan Stewart and was it Green Magic?
No, they weren't in the finals the year before. Because me and my brother played Ryan Stewart and Kevin.
Oh, you guys were in the finals. Okay.
So I don't know how far they went. Maybe they went to the semifinals. I don't know.
Okay.
But, go ahead.
Well, so we played that night, and I literally like you. I mean, were you there at Tecmo Madison Friday night when that tournament was going down?
Not this last year, no.
Okay. Well, so it was pretty legendary how chirpy BWAG was. And he was just getting primed in Seattle on you know, that was Thursday night, actually, the Friday, you know, the night before. And I you know, as a friend of his, was getting close to wanting to, you know, maybe sock him in the jaw or something like that.
So, yeah, I heard about it. But you know, I guess he was just having a good time. But you know.
Oh yeah, and I thought it was hilarious. And then saw the video. I think somebody put on Facebook of what it was looking like towards the end there. And I know it sucks to be in the position that God, it was Ryan. Who was the other one that was playing with Ryan? It was Caballero or
Kevin Caballero.
Caballero, that's right. So yeah, so that, I mean, that was pretty fun. And I personally, that was the first time I really played competitively the tournament edition. And we've talked about this a little bit before. I think I prefer just the original NBA Jam. Mm-hmm. And I can kind of like connect it to like I threw in both NHL 94 and 95 recently, testing a new controller I got, and 95 is just like more fast, slick, arcadey, I guess.
Right.
And because playing for years on the just regular NBA Jam, I've always had juice mode toggled with my login, and I just used to, love having the opportunity to throw it down from half court and in juice mode, or if somebody else gets the code for super steals or super blocks, makes the games kind of nuts.
Yeah, you wonder how many people actually even played the game without any of the codes in, because that was such a huge part of it. The secret characters, the codes. I personally never liked to play with that. I went for the pure version of the game, but I know a lot of people that's all they like to do.
I just like the speed and the crazy dunks. Or in crazy picks, I guess. But you had to pick one. You couldn't juice up everything.
Right. So I'll talk about the Retro Sports League Championship. Well, I'll just talk about it now. So the Retro Sports League Championship is going to be on January 5th at D-Men Tap in Chicago. It's going to be free to enter for the people who've played in the league and maybe more. I'm going to reveal more details after the Equalizer about it. But it's going to be a fun time because it's going to be a combination of 4 great retro sports games to determine who the best retro sports gamer is in, well, I guess it will take place in 2019, but it's the 2018 tournament.
In general, are you basically just having 4 mini tournaments and weighting them all, or do you have them culminate in one of the games having the championship game?
Well, I have a few formats. The way we did it last time is we just had double elimination right off the bat. And then in the bracket, the game you played next was already written in.
Okay.
So you saw if you won in the NHL 94 that you're playing RBI next. Then you see if you lose, then you might be playing NBA Jam next, or Tecmo or Blitz 2000. So you could see it on there. So that's the way we did it last time. And I think I'm going to still keep that for the actual playoffs. Mm-hmm. But depending on what players want to play in it, I would like to do a round robin of each individual game. So say if there's a guy who specializes in NHL 94, he comes and plays an NHL 94 tournament like he's used to. But if he grinds out of the pool, like top 2 or 3 players, then they move on to the double elimination tournament.
Okay.
So we'll just have to see what kind of variety of players we get. I mean, obviously, we're going to have the most Tecmo Super Bowl, few NHL 94. RBI Baseball, there's a lot of good players, but I don't know if that's their top game. And then there's a few guys, of course, the guys that play in Chicago, Green Magic and DPS, they're huge in NBA Jam. So Tecmo Super Bowl Hardcore Championship, just showing that we did that tournament in the summer. And then of course you could register right now for the Equalizer, still 10 days ago, $20. And this is the format we were talking about a little bit earlier, the tier list, and you could register right here. So this is what tier lists. So right now we just have the Tecmo Super Bowl tier lists, the standard one and the hardcore format. Looking to add in the NHL 94, RBI Baseball, and NBA Jam for the Retro Sports League Championship. So will they be as detailed as this? Probably not, but we want to get some kind of visual up there for those games.
I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, no, I think we definitely have the data to do it. That's one reason we're going NBA Jam T on Sega Genesis, because Green Magic has the tier list already made. Mm-hmm. Because he's played the game that much. Mm-hmm. And then RBI is only 8 teams plus the All-Star teams, so that's not too hard to do a tier list for. And then we're going to use Angry J 93's tier list for NHL 94.
Awesome.
So this is what I really want to showcase about this website is the overall Tecmo Super Bowl standings here. So right now we have, you can see on the right side there, there's 5 tournaments in here that happened in 2018. 2 of them are the ones I run. Tecmo Players Championship was the one Mort did here in Chicago. And then Craig here with the Cascadia F and Tecmo League. And then Deviled Greg with the Jersey Cup Tecmo. These 2 just made sense to put on here because they're tournaments that haven't been running that long, and they already had their stats ready to go. So thanks for letting me put that up here, Craig.
Yeah, I appreciate you adding it. We're kind of on a veritable island out here in the Pacific Northwest. So anytime we can kind of merge our efforts and share our stats, I guess, if you will, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. And my goal here is for 2019 for any Tecmo Super Bowl tournament that wants to be part of the standings, they can be. They just have to have a complete challenge. If they have that, then I could take the data from there. So there's not like extra work you have to do. Just have a complete challenge. I could take the data from there. Some of the tournaments we're going to add to this before 2018's over is the Full Nelson Hardcore Tournament. Tupa Bowl, I'm just waiting on some play in-game stats. And then I asked Chris Vogt for the Midwest stuff. So I'm trying to at least put the tournaments that I played in this last year, and then whoever else wants to be in it. So what you see here is what we're showcasing. And in the chat, what's up, Rogue Gamer and Infamous Smoke Gaming? How you guys doing? Right here, you just have what you would expect, the baseline stats for Tecmo, your win percentage, which Ted B, Sir Ted's like at that 100%. He 3-0 and dropped out of the tournament, looks like, for the CFT.
Oh yeah, he had to leave after playing 3 games. I was semi-disappointed.
Yeah. I think, yeah, three games and out, 3 and out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he showed up. He's a busy guy. He's got just within a year or so before that season, he became a first-time father, and he had was also planning on coming to CFT3 and then couldn't make that. So I look forward to him coming out again. Sorry.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have the win percentage, wins. So these are for the tournaments enter. So right now it looks like Tecmo Bo has the most wins. I'm only in second because I think I have the most tournaments in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Joey Gatz with 22 wins. And then point differential, you got Tecmo Bo again on top with Tecmo Psycho, Joey Gatz. And then, I think 22 wins. I think this is the big thing right here is just showcasing the titles and the top 4, because I think that's what people look at for each tournament. Who won, who was in the top 4. And, that's kind of like on the Retro Sports Gaming Monthly, what we report on anyways is the who won the tournament and who was in the top 4. So as you can see here, this shows you the top 4 and then the titles. So if we could get all the Tecmo tournaments in here for 2019, then we could have a good idea of who's doing the best at the tournaments across the whole country. So that's definitely one of the goals. Now, I remember what the Tecmo Madison website used to be like with all the detail. I don't know if you remember it, Craig.
I saw it, a little bit, and I liked going into their kind of database of all the Madison games, and they had such a rich history, so many years of and lots of games in the tournament that it was, and a lot of guys have gone there repeatedly, so it's really cool to look, how they did against who, or how did they not get in the bracket, or what happened to them when they did get in the bracket on a certain year? Because the histories are pretty fun to do deep dives in, but I haven't looked at it for a while.
Yeah, it was great. All the stats that it showed. It kind of went into detail, just like the Tecmo Players Circuit, the TPC, like all the stats that you could see from that database. The real reason we don't have all that is just because it's a lot to do. So I think just showcasing the baseline stuff is what people would want to see. The other thing I thought about too, with all that detail, I know DPS is one of the guys who said he would go on the Tecmo Madison website, see who he's playing, and then see like which matchups he lost in. And then he would call those matchups.
Yeah.
So it was like it's just easy scouting there. So I think with removing that, you have to have people looking at streams more to like scout their players if that's the way they want to do it, as opposed to just looking, quickly. Oh, this guy lost KC Cincy 3 times. I'll call that. So yeah, as you can see, Cascadian, F and Tecmo. So it just has all the stats for their 2 seasons, and we'll get season 3 up here pretty soon. And I think that date's wrong there. I'll have to change that.
No, that looks right.
Oh, that's right. Oh, this is 2017. Okay. And we got a question in the chat. I thought TPC was the Tecmo Players Championship.
Actually, Circuit.
Yeah. There is a Tecmo Players Championship that Mort just created this year, but Tecmo Players Circuit has been around, I think, maybe since the late 90s, early 2000s. Was the main way to play online, and people still use it today. But that's how a lot of people got into online Tecmo and playing in these tournaments.
And honestly, that's kind of a precursor to the Madison database. Like, you just look up who they played and what was the matchup and what was the score, and you could go by how many the matchups. You can see how every time you played this person and what all the matchups were. I guess you can't really do that on Madison, but it's the precursor to all that Madison stats.
Yeah, it's great that the Tecmo Player Circuit still has all those stats up there, because like games that I played like over 10 years ago, I could still go back and see the scores of the games and the comments from it. So it's pretty incredible that it's still there to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we need to do something with the live scene. One of the other things I want to do is get some NHL 94 stats up here. So I'm going to start working on that, and hopefully I could get the first tournament up here before the end of the year. So one of the other things I want to do, so this you see self-reported Tecmo stats. So you just see Derek Rubel, Tecmo Psycho, and then myself for Blono Tecmo 15. Blono Tecmo is one of the tournaments I wanted to put on here, but I haven't got any data from them. So basically, if you play at any of these tournaments and the tournament organizer doesn't fill out a challenge or just doesn't, provide the necessary data to make this possible to include it in here, you can keep track of your own stats and then just submit it to me. You could email me at retrosportsgamercom@gmail.com, and then I could just put it on here as self-reported stats. I'm not going to really look at doing this for 2018. Too many tournaments already happened. But 2019, I hope to keep up with it and include these in the overall rankings. And that's pretty much it for the website. Contact us. So I just gave you the info. But yeah, this is another way you can contact me to put the stats on here. And really be looking to get more aggressive with it in 2019. So that's pretty much the website.
I like what you're doing there. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. I hope, it's something that people will
Joey Gats in his pimp suit.
Yeah, I hope it's something that people will enjoy and will actually use. And if it goes well, then I'll just keep it going. So let's talk about some of these tournaments that have occurred over the past month. The first big one that we want to talk about is the King of 94 that happened in Vancouver. And the last time we did one of these, we actually did it the same night they were streaming because it was the last night we could possibly do it. But we did catch the tail end of the stream. And Craig, you said you were in and out of it all day watching some of the stream.
Yeah, I really was able to pay attention when it got late because, you know, daddy duties and all that. And I caught pretty much the majority of the end of it when I think it was quarterfinals of the Genesis one from then on. Or maybe it was just the semis. I saw I think I saw Jay in the one to go to the finals, and then the guy that he beat had to play somebody else and to play Jay again, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so there were some exciting matchups. The Genesis tournament was the one being showcased most on the stream. I think that's what the U.S. players care about most, but the Canadian players care about the Super Nintendo one more. So in the King of 94 Genesis tournament, first place was Greg C. Angry J 93. Second was Kevin B. Corbett. Third was Michael C. Smaws. And fourth was Joey R. Leaf Erickson. And looking at those player names, I know a little bit about the players, been following them some this year. I don't think there's really any surprises in those top four for the Genesis. Angry J was expected to win, and he did. But I don't know if you caught the game between him and Corbett in the finals.
I did. That was the okay.
So there was a game. I think it was the elimination game because it was like best out of 3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Corbett forced overtime, but he was on a streak of like so many saves in a row. It was just yeah. Like he had all the momentum. Like if you would have pulled that game out, you know, it could have been a different story because I don't know how many saves he made in a row. It must
that was pretty nuts. Actually, of the Genesis like broadcast that I saw, I have to say that was the highlight of the Genesis part. When I mean, outside of that, it seemed like Angry J was fairly dominant. Whatever I saw him on there, you know, he would get a pretty sizable lead, and every time like Corbett, he tied it a couple times, and then instantly would be right back down again. Not even just by one goal is what it felt like.
Yeah, and I think Angry J did drop a game to Smaws.
He did. That was his one, but it wasn't a series. It was just one game.
Just one game, and I think that was the first time that Smaws ever beat Angry J. Or maybe first time at a tournament. I'm not sure because I'm sure they've played online before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was an exciting tournament. One of the big time players, King Raff, wasn't able to go to that one, and he's usually the guy that gives Angry J the biggest challenge. But you know, Corbett, Smaws, Leaf Erickson, these guys, they came to play and they put on a performance. And it was definitely fun to watch. You had Arda O'Call on the broadcast, and he wrote a nice article on ESPN.com about the tournament. So I'll find a link to that and post it in the description. But it's a good read about the tournament and what transpired that day. The other tournament that happened was, of course, the Super Nintendo tournament, and they were running it on the same day. So let me just get those results here. So the Super Nintendo tournament first place was Kevin. They were calling him Federline. I don't know if his last name was Fed or what was going on with that. Second was Daff.
I'm not sure his real name is Kevin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Maybe
he was explaining on the interview afterwards why they started, like way back in the day, they just started to call him Kevin Federline because they thought he looked like him. Which sounded pretty funny. And the like the difference in the, I don't know, the animation of the people behind and how much energy there was behind the games. It really was like he had his friend right by him and everybody else, the other guy that he was playing. It was really loud and back and forth on the SNES side when they went to the finals.
Yeah, because that wasn't streamed most of the time. But when they went to it, the energy was up. And both the players like were showing emotions.
And it was a pretty tight game.
Oh yeah, it was tight. And the thing that was exciting about it too is the Super Nintendo's not as defined as like who the best players are.
Yeah.
Like Jammer was the guy who won it last time in Vegas, but there's a whole new group of players in there. I think
the thing that happened was the guy who won, we'll call him K-Fed, was in Las Vegas, and he was like Jammer's #1 cheerleader that whole time. And then they switched roles for this one, where Jammer was like, cheering him on, and because they're all part of like the same crew. And K-Fed when they did the interview afterwards, he did a lot of explanation on, like, he was the one that made the promo video for the tournament. And they've started to do their own kind of like blog, I don't know if they do a YouTube series or a blog series, but they're really starting to create their own content around the SNES Genesis, or the SNES NHL 94.
That's awesome. I didn't know that, so I'll have to.
If you get a chance, go back and just watch that. I came away very impressed with both of the winners. They have a very different, personalities. But they both came across, and I remember typing in text, they both came across as very good ambassadors of the game. And I was very happy I got to catch the final, the end of that whole broadcast, because I haven't really got to see it as much NHL 94 as I would like.
Right. I guess I wanted to fill in on who the next three were. It was Daft Kirk Miller is God, I guess is his nickname. Zubin was third, and then Jammer. So Jammer is still a top of the line player. He was 4th place. So, but yeah, it looks like they had a great time at the tournament. I did watch some of the post interview stuff. I think I missed the one that you were talking about with K-Fed, but I listened to them interview, or Arda interview Mikey and Daryl, and then I think that's when I stopped watching. But
okay.
But great tournament there. That was in October, and they've already announced that the next one's going to be in New York City. So
it sounded like that was the worst kept secret there, because they announced it that night.
Yeah, they didn't waste any time. Like there was a long waiting period for this one to say that was in Vancouver, but this time around, no, they didn't waste any time. New York, right after the tournament was over. So let's take a look. So some other Tecmo Super Bowl tournaments happened this last month, and one of the big ones was Tecmo Iowa, and Noonan is the organizer there. So the top 4 was first Mort, second Joey Gatz, third Matt Kenobi, the Tecmo Godfather, and fourth Justin Peters. So you see any surprises there with those results?
I mean, Kenobi getting that far, he that was kind of a surprise. With some of the other stuff that was going on, I was really happy that he went that far, and he actually, like, him and Mort played in a semifinal essentially.
Yeah.
But what I remember from that day, because that was also, like I told you earlier, the day that Derek Rubel was doing another charity stream. I remember chatting with Rubel while he was doing his, because I was flipping back and forth. I was like, Mort is on point. Like, you could tell that he was like in the zone. I saw him earlier, and he was running, and I think it was like Dallas versus Denver. But just the crispness of he wasn't making mistakes, and he was really just running all over people. That I saw, and then he handled business with Gats, pretty solidly. I mean, I don't think Gats was on the top of his game personally, but Mort definitely was in the zone. He definitely earned it that day.
Yeah, it was a sight to watch because I think he won 2 games without even passing.
Yeah,
just running those motion run plays, which people don't see too often. And they're looked at as isolation runs, but the way Mort uses them is like it just gives him time to make maneuvers all over the place. And I think that's what was really getting people because they just did not know which way he was going to go.
Mm-hmm. And he's good at that tactic. There's a few guys out there that, if you man up somebody and it's basically there's just you and all the drones are, on the line of scrimmage, and he'll just go back and forth across the line of scrimmage, waiting for that opening or waiting for that extra guy to free up to set him free. And a lot of guys don't know how to handle that.
Yeah. No, we play with them a lot here in Chicago, so we know some of the tricks, but even so, it doesn't mean we're going to be able to stop it every time.
Nope.
But it was fun to watch, and I think that was the best I've ever seen him play.
I would agree, and I haven't seen all of his. I came into Tecmo relatively late. He'd already won, Madison before that. But from what I've seen and what I've watched since I've got into online or into Tecmo, like watching live Tecmo and whatnot, that there was a noticeable wow, Mort is literally on point today.
Yeah, and he played Justin Peters earlier in the tournament. I think maybe Justin might have beat him once earlier, but the game I saw him play was in the bracket, and I think that was one of the games where he didn't even pass.
That was the one when that was the game when I went over to Rubel and I was like, "Yo, Mort is watch out for Mort, man."
Yeah, and even when he played Joey Gats, he put the arrow trick on display twice to score touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And to see a great player like Gats get arrow tricked like that, you're just like, wow, that's pretty amazing. But those two play together a lot when they meet up at these tournaments. So yeah. I think Mort knew what tendencies he was doing over the last day or two, so he was able to take advantage of that.
And I don't remember the turning point. I don't remember if there was a fumble involved late there. I thought Joey got stuck at the goal line once. And with when you have a battle of two guys that are that excel at Tecmo, it's just that one turnover, or that one not scoring at the end of the half when you're trying to kill all the clock. It's just the one thing that usually separates, and possessions are so important. So.
Right, and I think in their finals game, Joey Gats was up at some point, but then Mort just took it over and he guessed a bunch of his plays he was in his head, and he just took it over defensively in the last quarter and a half, from what I remember. But yeah, that was a great tournament put on. It was fun to watch. The Tecmo was great all day. And I enjoyed that. And like you said, I was tuning into Derek's stream as well that he did for, I believe it was the Children's Hospital. But yeah, that was a great day at Tecmo. I watched way more Tecmo that day than I probably should have. I was glued to my phone. But it was fun. I'm glad I did it because I saw some top-notch stuff.
I think I was home alone that day. My family was out of town and didn't even come. They stayed at their in-laws that night, so I was in Tecmo heaven that day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So the other tournament that happened, and this happened in between, was there was Tecmo Milwaukee, and then before that was your Cascadia F and Tecmo League 3. So do you want to talk about Milwaukee first, or do you want to get into your
let's do Milwaukee first, and then we can go
okay.
Back to 3.
So Tecmo Milwaukee looked like it might not have happened, but Mort put it together, and he put a on the line, free entry in the Tecmo Players Championship for 2019. I think they had over 20 players for the tournament. So the results were as follows. Mort won the tournament. So that was 2 in a row for him. Second was Rico, Ryan Fulcher, 33. Third was DPS. That's back-to-back tournaments, him placing in the top 4. And then fourth was a guy named Ding. I think his name was Eric Dingleton or something.
Yeah,
He's like actually not an online player or anything. He just a good Tecmo player, and he was in the top 4 with some good talented players there. So that's quite the accomplishment for him.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch any of the stream that Darth Rockman did the stream? Did you?
Yeah, I did. It was I caught a lot of it, but it was really choppy through middle of the day, if I recall correctly. And then they got it kind of solidified towards the end, and I was able to. I think I missed some of the semis, and then I caught in, or just up until the semis, and I caught in, and I watched the finals with Rico and Mort, and Mort just warmed down. I think Rico was kind of hammered, and
yeah, that's what it looked like to me.
It ran pretty late because they, I think that one was there. Everything was best of 3, right? Like
right.
Which is, personally as a participant, I would love that. The more games, the better. But it was kind of like the venue they were at. It almost seemed like it was literally just Rico and Mort there, and then like Darth Rockman with I forget who else was calling it. Was it whoever he was calling the game with?
Oh, he was calling it with Levi.
Levi, that's right. Who had just won his tournament a little bit earlier in the year, right? Like, didn't he win?
Well, he beat me in the hardcore at Full Nelson, Green Bay on the last play.
Was that for the win? The whole thing?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were on the mic for at least the last few games, and I get what you're saying. The best out of 3 as a player is awesome. But yeah, to keep people around to watch, it's like, oh, they got to play, 40 minutes to an hour possibly.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't keep people around. But at the Tecmo Players Championship, with all that money on the line, we were playing best out of 3, and a lot of people were still there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit different with higher stakes.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think it's a good format, but it's probably the best for like high money tournaments. If you're trying to keep people around to watch the games.
Mm-hmm. No, I get that. Well, I can talk. I can speak a little on that too with some of our CFT attempts, because time has been an issue with those as well, getting done at an early time.
Yeah, well, when you're trying to get in a full season and then go to the playoffs, it's a lot to do. But yeah, so Tecmo Milwaukee happened. Those were the results. So let's talk about Cascadia F and Tecmo 3. And that happened it was November 10th?
Yeah, it was the Saturday of Veterans Day weekend. And because what we do in Cascadia F and Tecmo is basically we play a live season on consoles, but we use EverDrive cartridges where we are able to pull the states and the stats from each game, and using the EverDrives helps us save time because we can play as many as however many systems and EverDrives we have at a time. So ideally, I think my goal will be up to 7 or 8 at a time eventually. So far, we had, like, on this last tournament, we had 5 at a time. So instead of like on a cart, you have to play 1 game at a time, everybody's waiting. We could play 5 at a time and then merge everything before we play the next week. Technical issues, as the person who runs it and also, trying to compete in it, I literally have no time to do pretty much anything except run it and play when I can. Like, I literally took a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there to catch my breath. That's about it. And so To do this and to take it on, like I really want other people to do it, because it's really like, to me, as a, as much as we're hacking the game, I still consider it a pure form of Tecmo because we're playing a season. What we do is, whoever we are going to get together to play, we draft according to, we draft tandems of the players that are on the ROM, and we use a salary cap sheet in tandem with the draft, so that nobody is drafting like just too super of a team. And we use a cap that I believe Brewdog made it. I'm not 100% sure. And we just draft. It's a 7-round draft. There's the 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs. There's the 6 wide receivers and tight ends together as a group. Or if you're talking about Houston, your 6 wide receivers. There's the the offensive line, defensive line, linebackers 4, DBs 4, and then with our punters and kickers, we haven't drafted those. We've just kept those as everybody has a 50 ability, and you can make your own names. So we'll just create our own names, and we've had some pretty funny ones. The original one that I thought was, especially for people who were around CFT, knew was for season 2, Tick chose both his kicker and punter to be no avail. And the story behind that was, when we got together for our first attempt at CFT, which was, we call it CFT 0, one of the games that they were playing was a bunch of players that had like all attributes of 6, and every player was named no avail. And it was like the most slow, weird game ever, but no avail will live on forever for that. But yeah, so we're able to kind of have fun and make up our own names, and then we have a schedule that I create beforehand, and we have a very good website that supports us to keep our stats, and been able to use that the last 2 seasons to provide the audience kind of a glimpse as to what's been going on. Recent games, we have our ticker at the bottom. We have an injury ticker as well. And then I'm able to kind of show our standings as we go through the season. The big issue, though, has been time. When we did our first season officially in summer of 2017, we did not have merging going on. We did not have conditions and injuries did not carry over, and we still went to like 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
There were a couple of technical difficulties there, but we also, because like we talked about earlier, Sir Ted left. Instead of doing official playoffs, we just ran a double elimination bracket. This last summer was when we finally got the actual the season feel. And what I love about doing it is, you have your team, you're running with the season. Conditions play a role, injuries play a role, and then when you're in the middle of the season, the ROM acts just like when you're playing a season on the original cart. You can look up the statistics, the standings, the conditions. All the player stats are on their card when you look them up, on the team data. And to me, it's the best ever. And in the summer, with more people, what we were able to do was to take whoever was, we had 12 people make it all the way to the end, and we put those 12 people into an actual Tecmo bracket. Brewdog made a hack for us where we were able to hack the bracket onto the ROM we were already playing on with all the stats, and it made our we basically played the playoffs on the Tecmo bracket from then on out. And that was
awesome.
That was my nirvana. Like, I haven't hit that kind of high since when getting that to work the first time. So that one went until 3:30, and part of that issue, and I say 3:30 a.m. Part of that issue is we had so many players. Every week had 7 games, but I only had 4 systems and 4 EverDrives.
Yeah.
And so we would do 2 rounds of games for each week, and then about 2 of the weeks, we just had some real technical issues. I don't know that I did anything wrong. Obviously, I must have, but there were just some technical issues. This just takes a lot of time to figure it out. And at one point, if you can't fix it, you got to move on and figure out a way to move on. So that happened, and my goal for one of my biggest goals for the one we just did in November, CFT3, was to finish at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
Part of that was we weren't doing a full bracket, and if you do a full bracket, that's about, I mean, you can count about 4 hours. It's over 3.5 hours to do a full Tecmo bracket. I want to make sure that all the playoff games are one at a time. I just think it's important for everybody to witness every elimination game. Not just the people on the stream, but the people that are there. You know, it's part of, to me, that's part of the allure of being at a live event.
I agree.
Yeah. And so, and with only, you know, we had 10 people and over that night, and the other part too, with CFT 2 and 3 so far, they've both been in my garage, which is not insulated. It could leak if it rained. It's been leaking. But we had good weather that day, but it was really cold for us. I mean, it was like mid-30s, and there's really no heat. So, but it's, you know, I think it's kind of like a primal version of Tecmo that I think everybody appreciated. But some people like Tailback King, and the guy that he gave a ride to left after week 8. We played a 10-week season. He left after week 8 because his friend had to be at work by, like, I don't know, 10. And so they left at 8 o'clock. And so he wasn't able to finish the season. And then a couple other guys had to leave after the regular season too. So originally my goal was to have 6 players make the playoffs. And at the end, we only had 6 players still left when we had the playoffs. So that kind of made it easy.
Yeah.
Each conference, with my format was going to be, even with the 10 players, each conference, if you had the best record in your conference, you got a bye. And the other division winner from that team was the top seed in the play-in game to the championship of that conference. And the next team in, you know, with the best record in that conference, with the tiebreak being point differential, just like in the original ROM, would play them. And luckily it turned out that whoever was left just fit perfectly. We had 3 in each conference. And we had pretty much every single, there's 5 playoff games. All of them had something crazy happen and were pretty tight. And so what I've been working on is trying to roll out a bit of a recap week by week. And what I've decided to do is I've got 3 weeks out so far. After 5 weeks, I'm going to stream kind of like a midway point of the season, what the stats look like at the midway point. Like I've got this going on in the background here. And what I'll do is I'll just stream, like, looking at every player on every team, what their, you know, stats are, you know, what the record was at the halfway point. The way I moved teams around matches the divisions and conferences that we have. And so I think it's a really unique Tecmo experience, and other people can do it. It just takes a lot of, like, there's a lot of technical stuff.
Yes. That's what I when I think about your tournament, I'm echoing a little bit. Okay. Let's go. When I think about your tournament, I don't think that the average tournament organizer can pull off what you guys do. I think it's quite the technical achievement. Everything that you're pulling off with the EverDrive carts, hacking the ROM to manipulate it the way you want to, and then on the stream you have it where you're switching between 2 games. You have some of the tickers, like. It's just really a Tecmo experience that I think really only you and your crew can provide.
And I would say that at this point, that's the case. I think I feel like we're trailblazers with that. You do need somebody that's going to take that, you know, that rope and pull that cart to get it to that point. It's doable, and I'm willing to help anybody that wants to work on it. But you have to basically kind of make sure you can get it to work on your own, because when you got everybody there, you got to make it work,
Right.
which is a huge part of it. So,
and I think you guys are probably like the most active with just posting on tecmobull.org with everything that you're doing. You guys are just, you're really into what you're doing, even though it's a small group in the, up there in the West. You still like all the energy of those guys is just, you're just putting it out there for everybody.
It's nice because we mostly all know each other, and hopefully we'll continue to grow. We definitely have our personalities. People saw that, like BWAG over at Madison on Friday night, and Tailback King has been a personality on T-Borg, for years. And this is honestly the most like screen time he's had in for people that have interacted with him on T-Borg of any of the tournaments that we had. And I feel lucky that the mic setup, like I've tried to have it where I could literally put all like 4 games at a time on if needed. And I ran out of time when other technical things came up and I couldn't get that set up. But it's just something, there's something about like being able to do this with all the people that we are all pretty familiar with each other. And I think from that we kind of know each other's games as well. And we're experiencing, in my view, Tecmo the way that the guys that made it kind of intended. Like when Tecmo Super Bowl first came out, the very first thing I did with the friends that we got it with was play season. And that was like the only time I ever played a full season. I was young enough. I was only like 18. And we spent the whole weekend. And during that season is when we learned all the cool things that Tecmo Super Bowl had that was better than Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
And doing this is kind of like being able to really kind of rekindle that. But also I get to, with learning stuff about hacking on my own too, I can tailor it towards, our group and make it like a really unique and special experience for us. But I just really hope other people, feel that they can do something like this, and I'm willing to help them, because this, to me, this is the ultimate, honestly, the ultimate. Like I haven't had as much fun playing Tecmo as I have the last 2 seasons. 3 seasons, really. So.
Yeah, I feel like to get that experience, I just have to come and play there. And I think others get that idea too.
I would love that. And honestly, if somebody wants to like come and play and learn too, not that you have to, that's another way to do it. But yeah, it's going to be welcome. I try to put, especially I think our real official ones are always going to be in the summer. There was just a lot of like, yo, are we going to do this again? And I was like, I really wanted to too. And it wasn't too hard to throw together the November one, because a lot of the work that I did was on the visual hacks and the moving teams around hacks, and that I had done before the July season. So it's something I hope to grow for us here, and I hope other people can eventually experience it themselves. And I think eventually too, I might travel to some places and participate and help people run it too. With
that would be cool.
In Tecmo years. But yeah, there's an open invitation, and I for people that I know, and I'll try to put out as much of notice as possible so that people could plan accordingly, because we're not the center, we're not in the Midwest. It's not easy to get out here,
right?
People have families, and
exactly. I think I might have to say that that could be like my birthday present or something, Christmas gift. Come on.
When is your birthday?
CFT. No, because I would just love to do that draft. I know, like, it's similar, I guess you could say, to HSTL, the online league. Like, that's pure Tecmo because they use all the original players.
Yep.
Each guy is owner of a team, and then they draft the team every season.
And it was honestly a big inspiration kind of for what we do, because like half of our league has been in HSTL. But in certain ways, I honestly think we're a little bit more true to pure Tecmo, because in HSTL you can move guys around, on your alignments and whatnot. And I'm pretty adamant that I don't want us to move. Like, if you draft your offensive line, they've got to be in the spot that they're on the ROM, and more so importantly for the defensive guys. Like, if you're going to be Martin Mayhew, you got to play from where Martin Mayhew is on the real game.
Right. You can't move like Kevin Green from the bottom linebacker to the top linebacker.
Yeah. Yeah.
To block field goals and stuff.
So a couple things that I've noticed as an owner through the games, something to really value. And I did this before season 2, and I drafted the Giants linebackers in both of them. And they were huge, because having that stud at linebacker 1 is a super game changer. In season 2, in the run through the playoffs, Lawrence Taylor like literally snorted coke anytime he was on the sideline, because in the conference championship I was playing against DT, and DT's whole team was roided out. He had Dave Craig in excellent. He had Roger Craig in excellent. He had, I think, one of his receivers was a stud and was an excellent, and his defense, he had Greg Lloyd in excellent. So the game started with, I forget who scored first, but one of us scored a touchdown. And actually, no, I think he scored a touchdown and I blocked his extra point with LT. Then I scored a touchdown and he blocked my extra point with Greg Lloyd. And it was just nutso from there. And then in the Super Bowl, Lawrence Taylor not only blocked all the extra points, but he also had a punt tackle. He tackled the punter. It was the most nuts thing ever. We're playing, and all of a sudden, like, he didn't get the punt off, and he's like, what happened? And looking back, I mean, LT just literally ran right by his guy and just snuffed him out, and it was just nuts. So
yeah, that doesn't happen too often. I haven't seen that like hardly ever.
And you don't see that in tournaments because you don't have that run of excellent. If LT gets into excellent, that's just nuts. That's just psycho. You can't handle that.
Yeah, he's definitely the biggest factor when it comes to that. At the Midwest Tecmo Super Bowl tournament, I ended up playing Joey Gatz in the elimination round, and it was Eagles versus Giants, and it was 21-7, and I scored a touchdown to like give me a shot to maybe get back in the game. And it was already the fourth quarter, and LT just comes in, blocks the kick, and Joey Gatz reacts like, yes. And I'm like, I kind of reacted slowly. I'm like, oh man, I just lost the game right there.
Yeah, now you're still down 2 scores.
Yeah, I'm like, I just lost the game. No wonder he's so excited.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's definitely a huge X factor. And it's not like there's a ton of players like that. There's Derek Thomas, and Greg Lloyd. You said there's a few guys that can be game changers, but even Lawrence Taylor at that 69 max speed, that even makes the biggest difference. So he's like the ultimate X factor as far as blocking field goals.
Oh yeah. And so I almost, the way I approach it from now on is I think I need to have at least a 56 MS linebacker no matter what at that linebacker 1 spot. Like, I'm going to spend for that because it's just so worth it. That's such a huge, just like what you're describing with Joey Gatz, getting that 1 block at a critical time is the difference between winning and losing. And so why not have that in your toolbox just in case you might need it,
Yeah, it's definitely something that might be underrated as far as drafting a team. Is like having that good stud top linebacker. But we did with that salary capped draft. We in the Mortmobile on the way back from Ohio, we did use that to draft teams and play like a little 2-on-2. I think we raised the salary cap a little bit though.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make the teams a little bit better, and we just edited the Pro Bowl teams.
Yeah.
Because I think you guys do, what is it like? It's like $100,000 or something.
I mean, technically, you could call it $100,000. We just call each grand $1, and so we have it as a it's the same salary cap. I'm sure it was used at, was it the Ultimate Weapon had his tournament that did the similar, like it used the similar salary cap, I think. But what we've what we did between CFT2 and CFT3, Manio suggested, and everybody kind of agreed, if a tandem was drafted in a season, for the next season's draft, we added $1. And if a tandem was not drafted, then the next season we took away $1. And then we had to make some special rules for those tandems that were already under $1. Like if it was already a 0.5 tandem, we're not going to drop them to 0. And that, over time, I think we'll keep with that. I think that encourages us to use more of the tandems, get more of the original round players, because we don't have a full, slate of 28 guys. We're going to be anywhere between 10 and hopefully like 20. And that's a way to make sure that more, that we'll be able to see more of those, original round players, playing on the CFT gridiron.
Would you ever consider making it a 2-day event? You know how like the No Frills Tough Guy League for the Tecmo Super Bowl 3, theirs is actually 3 days.
Yeah. And they play just on one cart.
One cart the whole time.
That is honestly my goal, because while my goal for this one was a 10-game season, just because it's really easy to divide by 10 and you can look at your per game stats or whatever. My ideal goal is to do a full 16-game season. And in order to do that, the only way to do that is over two days. The hard part of that is getting guys to commit for those 2 days. Yeah. It's hard enough to get them to commit for one. In the future, I've, certain things that I've had ideas about is for us to like have what we have move to different venues that kind of celebrates our Cascadia, what we have geographically here. But we also have like coming down the pike, Manio has honestly the best spot for Tecmo ever. It's not his house, it's at his mom's house, but they live pretty close to each other. And it's got not only a great room where we can have, I think we've had as many as 7 TVs going on at the same time, as well as he's got on I think like on a pool table or something, he's got his big screen TV that like usually what happens during those is he'll run a comm versus comm season where you can just make it automatically keep going, and it'll just show all the games, and once the game's over, it'll just automatically go to the next one. And then outside, he's got a place where we can throw football, a huge area for that, or barbecue, whatever. He's got a pickleball court, which I'm not sure if people outside of the Northwest know much about pickleball, but it's a relatively local popular game. It's kind of like a paddle ball.
I know what it is. We actually played it in high school.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And then he's got a basketball court and a pool. I mean, it's just, especially in the summer, we call it the Camp David of Tecmo. And I envision hopefully in the future that maybe we'll either, have a 2-day event there, or maybe we'll have to do something over on the other side of the mountains in Eastern Washington. But yeah, ideally, I would love to do a full 16-game season. It would have to take 2 days. And honestly, I would like to be able to incorporate doing, more side stuff along with that, like playing 2-on-2 NBA Jam or NHL hockey, with the CFT seasons we've had so far, it's just not been any time. And honestly, we don't really get to enjoy the ROM as much that way too, because as soon as I get all the states merged together, it's like, okay, we got to play, and we don't get to really enjoy, looking at the stats and all that stuff. So
just listening to, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, man, if you're just doing a lot of this work and you barely have time to breathe, then maybe the 2-day event is the way to go.
Like I said, that is my goal, and I've shared that several times with the guys in CFT. That that's my future goal, and it doesn't have to be right away.
Right? Of course, I think it could happen.
I do too. I mean, I've had offers to go to certain places in the Midwest and hold a 2-day thing there.
Really?
I think we get more people.
I think so. I mean, I think just with the people here in Chicago, and some of the people in Wisconsin and the surrounding states, that they would definitely commit to something like that.
Mm-hmm.
the 3-day, like the no frills tough guy league. I don't know if I could do that. Like mentally, that's just like
much not.
They've set the standard. Like, wow, these guys are the hardcore of the hardcore.
I agree. I couldn't do that. That's too much not playing.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So, but wasn't there some? Oh yes. So your last tournament runs. You're on the West Coast. It runs late in the evening.
We finished like much more earlier than 3 a.m. this time. I think it was closer to midnight. But
you're releasing the videos on your YouTube channel, right? As far as
yeah. I don't mind sharing now.
Okay.
So the way that the playoffs went, you saw the first game, and Tick and Manio played, and Manio pretty much had the lead and had the advantage that whole game. Tick scored late to cut it to a 1-score game, and I cut it to, I don't know, 3 or 4 points or something like that.
14-10, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. It cut it to 14-10, and then got a decent like kickoff and stopped him, at his own 5. And Manuel had John Elway, Barry Sanders, and Mel Gray, and he had like the Pittsburgh wide receivers. Well, the very first play was pass for the single back formation, which is one of Manuel's favorite plays. Tick picked it, and Elway was in the end zone needing to get rid of the ball. He threw it over the middle, and Eric Allen, JJ, picked him at the 10-yard line. It was the craziest thing ever, and it was a direct swing, and he ended up scoring and pulling it out. So instead of playing Manio, and I was worried about playing like Barry Sanders and Mel Gray, I had to change because the way I played the winner, I had to change my defensive focus, if you will, to defending Tick, who had Aikman and the Houston wide receivers. And he had like the Indy running backs, and he had like Ken Clark and Good or excellent. And so he was actually running really well with Ken Clark. I ended up playing Tick in the conference championship on that side. And that's where Gary Reasons really stepped out. It was like 7-7. I might've been losing in the fourth quarter, and tied it up. And then maybe tied it at 14-14. I forget. And then he ended up going 4 and out, trying a deep ball in his own territory. So he gave it to me kind of late, tie game. I scored it, but he still has Aikman, and Aikman's not so great, but he has the Houston wide receivers, and my DBs were Cleveland's DBs, but I had Gary Reasons as well. So on the very first play after he got it back, I had a pick play, pass 3, shotgun, and it was the sickest. Like, Gary Reasons came in, and he went to his running back 2, which is kind of the short one. And Gary Reasons did one of those, like, he just ran right by, picked it, and kept on running. It was the craziest thing ever. And that pretty much sealed that game. And then on the other side of the bracket, our Clark conference, we had, so we had Randy, Call Me Fair, who is a longtime online player, known personality. He's gotten kind of controversial. He's got banned from a couple leagues, even leagues that he used to run. But yeah, there's a lot of history there. But he's a good enough guy. He likes stirring stuff up, especially online. He's never really malicious, although he's done some really not very smart things. We don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
But he was playing one of 2 guys that come down together that are vets in our scene, which is Stu, who lost to Randy in the conference championship in the summer, and Joe, who comes down with Stu. So we played Joe first, and that was just back and forth. Joe had Andre Rison, and I forget who his quarterback was. I think he might have had the Detroit quarterbacks, and Randy. The thing with Randy's team, he drafted quarterback Eagles and the 49ers wide receivers. He had quarterback Eagles. Rice. Yeah. What?
How do you have enough room in the salary cap for that?
Well, Everything else, the only thing he spent more than $1 on, or that he could, was he spent $2 on Miami D line. So he had one fast guy. He had Jeff Cross coming from the D line, and then he actually had to spend more or the same on linebackers because we after a certain point, if you don't have the lowest tier, you have to spend a little bit of money on linebackers. So he spent a little, like $1 or $2 on linebackers, and then he had the Indy Colts DBs. But he saw his friend that came over with him for the summer who couldn't make it, Polish Rifle. Polish Rifle had the Indy DBs in the summer, and with conditions and everything, one of them goes into excellent, you have a viable DB, and he had some of that. But the game with him and Joey in the play-in for the conference championship was literally back and forth, and it went to a last second. I think it had a last second JJ to tie it. It was 28-28. Joey B won the toss, and Randy, I swear to God, he goes, "This is the fourth time I've gone to overtime, and I've lost the coin toss all 4 times." Right? And it started with, I'll give you a little backstory. His week, like the first game of the season, I played him, and he smoked me. And I had my very first. I tried a burn route with. I have Brister, and Brister is just you never know what you're going to get. He's a box of chocolates. So that turned into a pick, and it was close until the end. And then it was just like, I think I lost by 13 by scoring. He went up by 20, and I scored a last-second Tom Rathman kick return touchdown to cut it to 13 because point differentials are tiebreaker. He plays Rudy, the tailback king, next, and I'm sitting there. They were on TV 2. I'm on TV 3, and as the game's going, there's no score. He threw 2 picks during the game, and Rudy, Rudy can't really pass. He's the guy that's all about Johnny Johnson, and yeah. So he has Wade Wilson, and he's got the Miami receivers and the Washington offensive line, and then of course Johnny Johnson. So it's 0-0, and Randy runs the clock down, and scores with like 19 seconds left to go up 7-0. Rudy returns the kick return for a touchdown to tie it with Vi Sikahema. It was the craziest shit ever. And then Rudy wins the toss, and that was the first of what would end up being 5 overtime tosses in a row that he would lose. So back to the conference championship game. Randy loses the toss. Joey gets the ball, and I think it was on 2nd or 3rd down. Joey had Andre Rison by himself, one-on-one with, I think it was Jeff Cross. No, he had somehow got, everybody was open, so he's only back there with his D lineman, and he doesn't throw it to Rison. And that was the game right there. He threw it short. I think it got JJ blocked by a linebacker over the middle. And that would have ended it. He ended up having to punt or maybe trying to go for it. Randy won. And so he goes to the conference championship against Stu. Stu's team was the only other team like mine that was heavy on defense. On offense, he had Mark Rippon, who I was planning on drafting, but he snatched him up, and that left me with Bubby Brister with the cap that I could afford. And I was okay with that because I like a high PS. It's just Brister's, the 25 PC is something else.
It's tough, yeah.
Oh man, I've lost one of the online leagues is the Tecmo Tournament League, and this I lost that because I was forced to play with Pittsburgh. It was one of my 2 teams there, and he just shit the bed in that game. So back to this, Randy and Stu play, and I think they also, I can't remember if that one went to overtime, but Stu ended up pulling it out, and I think they did go to overtime. And Randy lost his 5th overtime toss in a row, and this time Stu he didn't play. He had Anthony Carter, so he tossed it up to Anthony Carter deep after he won the toss. And as soon as he got anywhere near field goal range after that catch, kicked the field goal right away. So immediately we have a new champion. And then it was me versus Stu. And, our backstory is the very first Seattle tournament there was back in 2011. The only 3 guys, the top 3 guys there, Manuel won it. I came in 2nd, and Stu was 3rd. and I'm very happy I got to play Stu again. And that was one where I ended up going up 7-0. I can't remember the order if I scored again and went 14-0 or if he scored next, but Lawrence Taylor blocked his extra point. And I think I was up 14-0 and then he scored. And it ended up being a final score of 14-6. And Gary Reasons finished the season on his last, I mean, he couldn't score 8 points. But on his last play, Gary Reasons intercepted a ball on the run out of bounds. And I was like, oh, it's a Gary Reasons season. So yeah, I ended up winning CFT 3. But honestly, I feel like a winner just participating because, getting to play a live season with guys, the other part of it too is we all know each other. It's fun to get together and play. You know what that's like. Like, you get together with the guys at D-Man Tap all the time, and you get to play in a lot of tournaments. I'm very, very jealous of you. But yeah, it's just, I don't think you can beat the experience. Even with me not having any time outside of, running the technical stuff and then, playing when I can. So,
well, I think you just got to reflect on it after it's over versus while it's happening.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of experiencing it. But, yeah, I mean, I still can't get over that QB Eagles and 49ers wide receivers. Like, that's just crazy.
It was something else. And so the way the season started and he beat me, I was like, oh, man, it's going to be a long day. And the very next game, he not only lost to Rudy, game 3, like the one I just posted today, he lost to Manuel in overtime. That was his second overtime game. And Manuel won the toss. And Manuel didn't throw it down. He just ran it down. He didn't have to throw it. But, the thing that I would like to improve, obviously, other than time in the future, is some kind of interaction with people that come and tune in. With everybody playing, don't really have an extra person to do that, especially when we had an even number of people. During the summer, I was hoping to have whoever had their bye, hey, come pop over here on the computer and, just chat with whoever is there or, talk over it. But outside of that, we're just learning how to keep doing it better. And I'm getting more and more, equipment and ideas to still make the experience better. Derek Rubel is going to help out with some of that. I want to get some custom made stuff. Oh, did you catch? I know you saw the split screen.
Yes.
One of the things that I bought was these input displays. Did you see those?
I don't know. I don't know if I did.
So I ended up finding out that you could, because I've seen people stream, when they're doing an emulator, and through the emulator it'll display like what their button presses are. And then I heard on Twitter that this one person made these so you can do it when you're playing on console. And I contacted them and they're like, yeah, that I do these, but there's also this other person who does a little bit better quality work. So I went out, and talked to them and made them. So I ordered 2 and had them come down. And so if you look at like the very first game I posted, and then if you look at the very end of the game I posted today, week 3, I went from this 2 screen and my game finished earlier. So we went to just a 1 game screen. You can see, and it was, especially when it's tight in overtime, you're looking like, wow, that's going to be a blitz. Cause you could see they picked, the same.
Okay. But only the viewer can see it.
Technically, that was the idea. Nobody caught on because when I had the stream up, I have OBS right there and you can see it on OBS. Right. Nobody knew though. So it was never abused. I think in the future I might, like I said, I want to have somebody be on the computer communicating and they can turn it so that, I don't have to be sitting there monitoring that. I'm playing, at the same time. But yeah, technically if somebody really knew what was going on, and I did, I never looked. But they could be seeing like, oh, they just picked that. But you can make it so that they couldn't just by turning.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think interaction with the chat is like the next thing to improve upon, because you have the look down. You just need someone there interacting with the chat. And I'm a bad example of that tonight because these guys are talking back and forth.
I know I've seen a lot of this.
But they're not really asking any questions to us. They're just talking amongst each other.
Yeah.
Green Magic's in the chat. Eric Odell popped in and said, hidden stats. I think you were talking about Johnny Johnson.
Johnny Johnson. I didn't see Odell was on there.
Yeah, he just popped in for one comment.
Okay. Oh, there he is. Yep.
But yeah, I think the interaction with the chat would be huge because you guys got a lot going on, and it just might need to be explained to people. But I think that's just the big thing about the live streaming is the fact that you can interact directly with the people that are viewing, and that's like it's better than watching TV because the TV is never going to talk back to you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I tried. I knew that was going to be a struggle, and that's why, like you saw some of those other things. Like if people want to know what's happened recently, they can use the ticker. And I didn't use this in this last season, but in season 2, through Twitch, if you use, I think it's Nightbot, you can have people type in certain codes in the chat, and it'll bring up links to things you want them to see. And so for season 2, I linked them to our draft Google sheet, our file, the website that we have, and something else. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, I agree. That's our next step is to get, somebody, doesn't matter who, to just be there to, because I of all the times that people did pop in and say something, never was there anybody on the computer to say something back, except in the playoffs. When the playoffs, there's only 2 people playing. I threw out, hey, who's out there? And what's his name? Not Noonan, Hawkeye. Hawkeye said, "Oh, I'm here," and he stayed there for a little bit, and then he was like, "Oh, I got a Madden game." So, but
I would love to see this style of league, like maybe with you running it, or you teach someone else to do it. You got it's the thing on the West Coast, one in the Midwest, and then in the Northeast, because those guys play Tecmo all the time. They got all their tournaments, and there's actually one coming up in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Arcanum runs that tournament. I think they're at their 10th one. They're having a Mega Man 2 race.
Yeah, they did the Mega Man 2 race. I think last year was the first time, and he's really that's one of his games that he kind of caught on. There's the zips in them that he really likes doing, and they like having that race for it. But yeah, there's so many of these tournaments that I personally, I have my own bucket list that I like to. Not so much. It's a lot of it's because I know these guys from playing online and want to hang out and play.
Right, exactly. They're just so far away. But yeah, if you're on the East Coast, Saturday is that tournament. It's one of the biggest Tecmo Super Bowl tournaments in the country. I think last year they had over 50 players. So there's still time. Look on tecmobowl.org. There should be some information about the tournament. They have their own website. And I don't know what the entry fee is for it, but they had a stream last year. It looks like a great tournament.
Yeah, Eric does a really good job with pretty much anything he does. He's running one of the still standing leagues that I ran forever, and I don't have the time to do that kind of stuff anymore. And just to hear this is the 10th tournament that they're holding in Connecticut, and that says something in and of itself, to have something going that long. And like you said, 50 is no joke. Having 50 guys, that's a solid number to get together for Tecmo.
Yeah, for sure. I think most of the tournaments hover around like the 20 to 30 mark, somewhere around there. But there's just those few tournaments that get 50, 60 plus that aren't Tecmo Madison, and it's good to see bigger tournaments like that, because I think what this community has is especially in Tecmo Super Bowl, is just a lot of leaders, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. But then there's also so many tournaments, and you want to show your support for each and every one.
Yeah,
it's like, man, I just spent this
right?
Yeah, it's like I want to go to this tournament, and I just spent all weekend watching these streams, and then there's one the next weekend. So it's just like hard to find the time to support all of them and to go to as many tournaments as you want.
And then there's the other part of the innovations, like who's like the Equalizer's an innovation in terms of like how it's being run. It's not your standard, just like Madison, pick your matchup and double elimination from there. And we were looking into, like, me and DT were throwing around some ideas, because DT always has a lot of these new and innovative ideas to do with tournaments. A lot of times they involve like an EverDrive on one station or something like that. We were literally just watching, like, we were supposed to play a league game to finish. I was just helping to finish. It's that same league that Eric Morales runs. And I was like, yo, can you wait? Because I was watching, side note, I'm a huge sumo fan, and it was the last night of the most recent sumo tournament. And so I turned him on to the Twitch stream for it, and he got kind of into it. And he's like, yo, let's do a Tecmo tournament like a sumo tournament, like the way that they have everybody's ranked a certain way. And I don't know that we could actually like have the decision be made the same way, because they literally just take, if you have the best record after a somewhat semi round robin, then you just win. That's not as fun as actually having a championship game. But I'm looking forward to what's going to be the next, non-season innovation to, a live tournament. Because, I think there's still a lot of potential out there, but it just takes, like, I think it's going to take some kind of vision, or, that a unique brainstorming that, not everybody has, to come up with something unique.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ideas out there. I mean, I love what you guys do. I know, like, the Tom Zach Bowl was one of the first ones to do a tier list, if I'm not mistaken, and they kind of like switch it up. And I know you were a supporter of the Tecmo Super Bowl Hardcore Championship, just saying, hey, let's just play this game like it came and see who's the best at it. I mean, that was
kind of the way I played it, except the only thing I didn't do that Hardcore did was run with wide receivers. Everything else went, just playing up until I learned that online was a thing, was, lurching was a thing. And I didn't play with all that many different teams. The two guys I played the most were the Bills and the Eagles. There was no sense trying to lurch the Eagles. I was always the Cowboys.
Right.
And with the Bills, he just picked shotgun plays. Danny Noonan could catch Jim Kelly, not always, but but he'd come after Troy Aikman. You figure out the ways to counter that. I wouldn't even do all shotgun plays, but I'd be like, okay, come in and dive. I got a run play for you, But yeah, I'm hoping to see more innovations on that. It's hard. I don't really consider what we do like a tournament per se, even though it does end in technically a tournament. But it's it's just words.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of Tecmo players and other retro sports gaming players that want to see the innovations, but I also think there's a group that don't want to see any innovations. Mm-hmm. They just want the standard and then just keep drilling that home.
Yeah.
But, with all the tournaments, that might not necessarily be the best way to do it either, because, how many tournaments do you need to play it in the same exact format?
Yeah, well, with so many tournaments you have, I mean, there's plenty enough of the, the standard kind, and then hopefully some of these other new ones come out. It's just nice that there's so many tournaments, not only for a lot of these guys to be able to go and participate, but even as, somebody that can't go to still watch. There's the amount of streaming that's been going on it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's tons of streaming all over the place with the online leagues and the tournaments. It's all over the place. So I personally love it for Tecmo because it's my favorite sports game, but I would like to see it more with other games. And that's what, on this channel, we try to provide some streaming for other sports games that are great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we do like the monthly tournaments at D-Men Tap, where we switch up the game
Mm-hmm.
So it's not always, Tecmo Super Bowl or, the main titles that we play, just to get a variety, because, we know which ones are the best or which ones we have nostalgia for, but there's still tons of great sports games out there. And,
They're just fun to play and compete in. I agree. Yeah.
So that's one thing that we try to do. But I actually like all the innovations that we've seen in Tecmo Super Bowl, with the different things. But I think you guys have one of the most unique live experiences, if not the most unique. But it's just for you now about hashing it out to get everything the way you want it, and with the amount of participants, and figure out the time thing.
Well, I can't wait for you to get out here one of these years.
I want to play. I mean, I like, I don't play fantasy football anymore, but like fantasy Tecmo, that's where it's at. Cause like you could, the reason I don't play fantasy football is because I feel like I have no control over it.
Yeah.
Like I played in leagues, and, the guy that doesn't even edit his team or just goes by, doesn't know football, wins the league. But it's like Tecmo, okay, now I get to draft players that are my play style, and then I get to go up against you. Like, you have total control over what's
going on. And you get to play with them too. That's
so that's where it's at, in my opinion. So yeah,
well, I can't disagree.
So yeah, you guys been hanging around in the chat. I appreciate it. Do you have any questions for us before we go? Because I think, yeah, we've been talking for almost 2 hours now.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but we had to get the Cascadia and Tecmo League out there. You came on before and talked about it, but it was more like 10 minutes or so.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd love to get the word out, not like I said, because I think more people can, to me, it's almost as pure a Tecmo experience as you can get, if you can get it to work. And, just to play a season, to have all those innovations that Tecmo Super Bowl had with the conditions, keeping the stats, you see it on the ROM, and the conditions carrying over. And then, like I said, the nirvana for me was getting that Tecmo bracket with everything, the conditions and stats matching, carried over into that bracket. I can't wait for next summer. Hopefully get it going again.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just want to see it all done, like, because I hear you talk about it, I see what you're doing. I'm like, how, like, there's parts of it where I'm still perplexed. Like, how are they even doing this?
For last year, because of I felt like our first season was a failure, because my plan was to do a season, like a live season for the first season, but couldn't get one of the tools to work. So we just played like HSTL does, where everybody starts an average every game. Then because of that, I spent a huge chunk of my free time in the spring testing everything, but I literally only had one Nintendo. So in order to test things, I had to play them out one game at a time, and then test the merge, make it all work. And that added some extra problems too, because these EverDrives are so finicky. And when I'm just using one EverDrive for that, which I think I had two, but I was only really using one, it would, it does these weird things that keeps stats if you don't change like the name of the ROM. But being able to get that mostly done during the spring helped out a lot. There's still some last second stuff that, like, before the July season, there was an error with recording tackles, excuse me, time of possession and turnovers on downs, all things we can track with, the hacks that we have. And what would happen is, after every game, those weren't reset to 0. And so after each game, it'd be like, oh, this guy had 5 fumbles and 2 loss. And then in the next game, he had 6 fumbles and 2 loss. And then the next going to be 8 fumbles and 4 loss. Like, it just kept on tallying up. Got that to fix. And then before this season, when I made the ROM for this season, for some reason, I didn't go use the right ROM that had that fix in it. And so the day before this last tournament is when I realized that. and Brewdog was, he had stuff going on. He wasn't able to help me. So what I basically did was rehack the whole ROM for all the other hacks that I did in terms of moving teams around. And that's why I didn't have the stream up as much as I would like to in terms of, some of the things, because I had to do all that. I literally spent all that day hacking the shit out of the ROM.
Oh, man.
But it ends up being worth it when things, work. Like the very first week, I had some problems getting week 2 started. But after that, my goal was 45 minutes a week, and we pretty much stuck to that. By the time it was like 4:30, we had most of our season done. And then the real finicky thing is the EverDrives have these SD cards. And for some reason, every time, no matter which of I had 3 different SD card readers, and one of them shit the bed. The 2 that I had left, every time I put it in, it would show a thing, which you see on EverDrives, where it says OS init, meaning your SD card needs to be reformatted. And so I would go and do that, put it back in again. It was still doing that. So there's some cards that I don't know. They just stopped working. And so luckily I had a shit ton of cards. And once we got to the playoffs, I just needed 1 card. And that was pretty much what I was down to. It was kind of a shit show at the end there, which is why it went so late, because it really should have been done by about 10.
Yeah. Cool. Well, there's a lot of hardware involved in what you're doing with all the streaming equipment, the EverDrives, SD cards. But you got to figure it out, and I wish you the best of success to continue to grow it into the future.
Appreciate it.
So before we go, is there any YouTube channel, Twitch, social media stuff you want to throw out there?
Well, like I said, all of my stuff is under the Camphuna 8 number, KAMPHUNA 8 on Twitch and on Twitter and techmobull.org. And then my YouTube handle is Coach Huna. Like I described a little bit earlier, I'm trying to tell the story of the season by rolling out each of the weeks through YouTube and posting all the screen caps, and then hoping to, like I said, after the week 5, kind of show off the ROM, and then ultimately show off the ROM again after 10 weeks, where we see all the final season stats. But yeah, I hopefully will have all that done within the next couple of weeks. I'm trying to do 1 or 2, get one out every 1 or 2 days, something like that. So.
Well, thanks again for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, because I was thinking about you. I was like, oh man, we got to see what's going on with Cascadia F and Tecmo League, because I didn't have the full picture. Because it's a longer stream than watching one of these tournaments. So I'm like, oh, you might as well just come on and talk about everything that you're doing. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man.
And they're talking smack in the chat.
Somebody is about to obliterate a toilet.
Yeah. Yes, we are 51 subscribers away from 1,000, so we appreciate the subscriptions.
Nice.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. And good luck, Green Magic, on that SNES game in the Super Bowl. He says he's 17-0 with the Packers headed into the Super Bowl. So he's listening and he's playing at the same time.
Nice. Thanks, Infinite Smoke Gaming, for the subscription.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. We'll be back next month with the Retro Sports Gaming Monthly. You'll probably see us at D-Men Tap on Monday, and then the big Equalizer 2 tournament at Michael Anthony's Pizza in Berwyn is happening December 8th, so we'll have a stream going on then. So everyone, thank you for watching. Take care and have a good night.